Hello, it's Kyler, and we are in Intuitive Momentum Fitness. This is week 68, and I'm excited to connect with all of you. Quite a few have joined in the last few days, and I'm excited to continue talking about an intuitive approach to fitness. One that utilizes momentum to keep moving in a positive direction, an ever improving direction, and then the next 3 days we will have our live webinar. Hey, Catherine, glad that you're here. Next 3 days we'll have our live webinar. And we'll be talking about elements of what it means to be empathic, what it means to have experienced trauma, because usually very empathic people have experienced trauma. So how does trauma affect health and fitness? And we'll be focusing on that day one. How does trauma and empathy affect health and fitness and energy and all of that. And then day two, hey Brianna, good to see you. Day two, we'll be talking about the challenges of positive life change. You know, it seems like it should be a good thing, a simple thing to eat better and exercise more. Usually that's what people think of when they make some positive life changes in their wellness programming. But there's a lot of challenges that happen as you're becoming a different person. So how do we navigate that? And then the last day, Saturday, we'll be talking about what are the things that I have found most helpful, the elements that I have found most helpful for me as an empath, as someone who loses energy from connecting emotionally to the people around me. What is the most effective ways to move toward optimal health? And so I'm excited to share all of that with you guys this week. But today, I'm going to be responding to the comments that you guys left, but also I wanted to start with what is the philosophy of an intuitive momentum fitness approach? What is that intuitive momentum fitness philosophy? And it's something that I have developed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but these are like 7 things that I have come to strongly believe based on my experience in my healing journey. And the first one is that I believe the body is working for us, not against us. A lot of times, the language around health and nutrition and exercise and all of that is that you're like trying to trick your body into losing weight or getting stronger or getting healthier or whatever, as if the body is conspiring against you. And everything in my experience has showed me that the body is always working for me, not against me. And that goes with number 2. I believe the body is brilliant in ways we may never understand. So it has innate wisdom. Hey Lori, glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. So the number 2 is I believe the body is brilliant in ways we may never understand. So honoring the body as a source of wisdom for us. And then number 3, I believe the body is always seeking optimal health. It's always trying to be as healthy as possible. that's its goal. It is trying to give you the best function of your body possible. I believe that's wired into it. And then number 4, I believe the body is always doing the very best it can with the resources it has. So at any given moment, the body is dealing with toxins, with stress, with whatever you're eating, with overuse or underuse of your limbs and muscles. And I believe that the body is always in optimal health under the circumstances. And so the reason we are not always at optimal health is because of the things that we're doing that kind of neglect the body, that doesn't optimize its performance, that doesn't support it in the best ways. So leading into number 5, I don't fix my body, I support it, because my body will heal itself if I support it in all the ways that I can think of to support it. And then number 6, I listen to my body and I let its feedback guide me. So this is the honoring of the body mindset, where instead of taking something to make my body do something, whether that's, have more energy or get stronger or lose weight or whatever, instead of forcing my body to do something, listening to it, honoring its feedback, knowing that I will get healthier and stronger as I do things that support my body, that cause my body to feel better. And then 7 is I slowly replace unhelpful patterns and habits with helpful ones. So this approach to health and wellness is not a 6-week or 8-week or 12-week thing. It's a ongoing, lifelong investment. And the patterns and habits that make up my life are either supporting my health or working against it. And so identifying what habits and patterns are not helpful and what habits and patterns would be helpful, and then slowly adjusting and switching to the helpful ones, is the key to longevity and vitality and energy and everything else along the way. So yeah, that is my philosophy of health and wellness, fitness, the intuitive approach to fitness. So I'll read that again real quick. 7 points. First, I believe the body is working for us, not against us. 2, I believe the body is brilliant in ways we may never understand. 3, I believe the body is always seeking optimal health. 4, I believe the body is always doing the very best it can with the resources it has. Number 5, I don't fix my body, I support it. 6, I listen to my body and let its feedback guide me. And 7, I slowly replace unhelpful patterns and habits with helpful ones. So wanted to start off with that just so we know, like, what is this approach to health and fitness, and how is it different than other approaches? And I'll be explaining a little bit more, and you'll get a feel for my philosophy on this as I respond to the comments and questions here. So Catherine says, beautiful philosophy. Will post this in a visible place to help shift my mindset. Awesome. So Becca says, looking forward to it. I always struggle with my health and my weight with having thyroid issues. I am on this continual journey to a betterment of myself. Cheers. So Becca, I have had hypothyroid. I'm assuming that you also have hypothyroid, because most of the time, if someone has hypo or underfunctioning thyroid, then their energy burning is low and they tend to accumulate body fat. So, and actually most of my childhood, early adulthood, when I had hypothyroid, hypoadrenia, I was underweight, so I was an anomaly in the hypothyroid world, but it was because I also had complex PTSD. I didn't really realize that at the time, and so my nervous system was hypervigilant and just always on alert, always activated. So I was burning myself out. I was exhausting my thyroid and adrenals as I was dealing with all the stress and anxiety and hypervigilance of my childhood. So I didn't find out that I had that till I was almost 23 after Marine boot camp. And the doctor said I never should have made it through boot camp at the levels I was at, like physically been able to complete boot camp. And then it wasn't until I was 27 and a half before I met a woman who does nutrition response testing. That's what that discipline is called, nutrition response testing. So if you feel like you might have hormone issues, I highly recommend looking up a nutrition response tester in your area, practitioner, because they use the body's energy, applied kinesiology, to determine what specific nutrients different organs and systems in the body need along the way. And so I worked with this lady for 5 months. At 2 months, my adrenals tested at 100%, and at 5 months, my thyroid tested at 100%. And I'd heard from every other doctor, including naturopaths, that I would be on thyroid medication for the rest of my life. And I haven't taken any thyroid medication in probably 15 years. And so it's pretty amazing what the body can do when it's supported in the ways that it needs to be. So so I have compassion on your experience with thyroid issues, and that was something else in my journey that I learned and chose, that I would never stop seeking answers and possible solutions, even when everything seemed impossible and every expert in the field told me that it wasn't possible. What I was seeking, what I was trying to find, what I was trying to heal. And it is interesting how there used to be a longer list of body parts that were assumed to be permanently damaged if they were damaged, and that they wouldn't recover. And that list has gotten so small, almost virtually non-existent, because the medical world keeps getting surprised at what the body can heal from. So, so Becca, don't give up. Keep doing all the things that you know are helpful for your health and your thyroid to support your body and your energy levels. And one step at a time. We'll get more specific as we go along, and you're always welcome to ask questions, specific things as we go along as well. So thanks for commenting, Becca. So Leanne says, I've struggled for years with feeling safe when I am thinner. I am about 40 pounds over recommended weight, but I will say at 150 I look extremely skinny. So she says she's 190 now. At 150 she looks extremely skinny. I would like to feel safe at whatever weight I am, and I think dealing with the trauma around it is probably what I need. Thank you so much for making this available. So I love this comment because this has to do with personal power, sovereignty, being able to set boundaries, and then I want to highlight strength training as a piece of this. But so one of the aspects of my experience of being weak and fatigued growing up was that I was super skinny and super lightweight. My younger brother got taller than me when he was 4, and in our teen years he was always about 30 pounds heavier, automatically got all this muscle. I was still skin and bone. My dad was a very, very angry person, and I just felt weak and powerless in his world. And he controlled every aspect of my life until I rebelled at 22. And so then my goal became, I want to get as big and as strong as possible. And it's taken me a long time to build muscle to where I'm around 170. When I couldn't get heavier than 120 all the way till I was 22. And so into my early 20s, I couldn't get heavier than 120 pounds. And I felt weak and powerless in my life in general, and with my dad in particular. And so anytime I was around angry men, I would feel that weakness and powerlessness and that vulnerability. And even though I have spent, it wasn't just a sudden switch, but like maybe last 15 years, 14, 15 years, I've been close to this weight or heavier. And throughout that whole time, in my own subconscious mind, I see myself as being skinny and weak most of the time. So when people talk about how strong I look, I'm surprised that they can tell that I exercise, because in my own mind I've got the body dysmorphia, and I feel small and weak. And so I can relate to what you're saying. So I'm saying all that to let you know that I can relate to what you're saying. And there are certain times when I walk around the neighborhood or walk to the store or something, and I see someone who looks bigger and stronger than me, or just kind of has that aggressive scan to their eyes, and I kind of question myself whether I could stand up for myself, if I could set a boundary, if I could say no thank you if they wanted me to do something or whatever. And I know that, just like when you look at dogs, and sometimes it's the littlest dogs that have the biggest attitude, and then they set their boundaries really well. Like, size doesn't really matter, because you can be a fierce little thing and really surprise people and make them step back. And that is all about personal power, personal sovereignty, being able to set boundaries, knowing your worth, all of that stuff. So I, even now, have to remind myself that I get to decide how my life looks. I get to decide what I do with my life and what I do with my time and who I say yes to, who I say no to. I'm totally authorized to choose those things for my life. And it's totally okay if someone else gets angry or mad or frustrated or even livid because I won't do what they want me to do. And it's okay for me to get physical about it if I need to for my safety. So remembering that I am sovereign over myself. Like there's no other person on the planet more responsible for me than me. And I get to own my life. I get to choose my life. I get to choose my experiences. I get to choose what I agree to and what I don't agree to. So remembering that and remembering that I am capable of making a big stink about it to take care of myself, and that's okay. And I know that we can look at each other and assume that everyone else has more confidence than we do, but sometimes we just have to own it and pretend it. I love the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, Cuddy. She is a psychologist, I believe, and researcher. And she talks about how the body like the chemicals in our body respond to our posture. And they were studying, winners and losers in sporting competitions, and the winners had consistent body language and the losers had consistent body language. So the winners were, holding their arms up, head held high, chest out, very powerful pose. And then the losers were always, head down, shoulders slumped, slouched. And they wanted to find out if you could reverse that, if you could make the body feel something different by putting it in a specific posture artificially. So they did these experiments and they had people hold different poses for 2 minutes and measured the chemicals in their body. And when people did like Superman or Wonder Woman pose or held their arms over their head like they just won something, or kind of lean back in a chair, open posture like they owned the world, like they were running the mafia, their testosterone actually went up in 2 minutes and their cortisol went down. So the stress hormone went down, it went down, and the power hormone went up, the strength hormone went up. And so sometimes it's all about how we talk to ourselves, how we choose to stand or sit, and that reminds us of our personal power. It's like, it's important to take your attention off of others because you can look at others and see how powerful they are, and you have no control over what they choose to do with their power, but you do have control over what you choose to do with your power. And it's like, I can't control everyone else, but I can control me, and I can meet any opposition with courage and fortitude and clear boundaries and a scuffle if I need to. So, so remembering that is important. So, especially if you have a history of feeling unsafe, then your goal may be in experiencing an anomaly where you choose safety where you felt unsafety. That's going to include surprising yourself and surprising others with your fortitude and your level of self-care and self-defense or whatever you need. So another piece of this that I think is practical and very helpful is strength training. And I don't know about your current routine and if you are doing any strength training, but a lot of women do focus on losing weight and trying to get smaller rather than taking up space and energy in the world. So it's definitely a mindset along with a physical counterpart. But if you focus, instead of focusing on trying to get smaller, trying to lose weight, and doing things like walking and jogging and running, and eating less and all of that, if you start with focusing on strength training, in a few weeks, you'll notice that you're able to do more repetitions than you were able to, because your body responds very quickly to strength stimulus. So the first 3-4 weeks is actually just the nerves getting organized in the muscle. And so your strength will increase just in those first 3 or 4 weeks with consistent strength training, because the nerves in the muscle is getting organized and figuring out how to recruit muscle motor units better. And then you start actually getting more muscle motor units, and they start getting physically stronger, not just neurologically more coordinated, but physically stronger. And if you're worried about getting bulky from strength training, it takes a really, 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 really long time to add actual physical bulk, because the muscle gets thicker or denser first and then grows in thickness later. And for women, it's really challenging. Even if you get a good pump and all that stuff that makes it look thicker right after you work out, that's not permanent. So that's just more blood in the muscle. But yeah, strength training is really powerful psychologically to help you get in tune with your own strength, so that you're not captivated and overwhelmed by everyone else's strength and then kind of neglect to look at your own strength. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Leanne. And hopefully this was helpful. Keep us posted as you pursue your journey. And then Catherine says, I'm thrilled to be in this group. I am 48 years old with a long line of abuse behind me. I'm finally in a safe place to heal. I appreciate Kyler's journey and all he has to teach and share of his own experience. Thank you for opening this group up. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Glad you were able to join and chose to join us. So I very much empathize with the long history of abuse, and tomorrow's session will be all about understanding trauma and the effect it has on the body and our energy levels and how it changes the way we have to approach fitness. So yeah, thanks for being here, and looking forward to continued dialogue as we go along. So then Danielle says, hi, thanks for the ad. I was in a good place with my weight and health until the first round of COVID. Long haul COVID took the wind out of me mentally and physically. I've gotten back in shape. She's an college soccer player. I've gotten back in shape many times after each baby or major life event. This one is so different. One day of light yard work felt like I'd done 2 a days. LOL, insane. It's taken tiny, like minuscule baby steps to haul myself to the gym regularly, but my workouts are so different now. Like I'm giving myself permission to go easy when I need to, as long as I need to. I'm excited to see what we talk about here. Listening to my body has been a lifelong journey I'm still on. So yeah, perfect, Danielle. That's really, really challenging, really tough. And, no matter how many times you've bounced back from things in the past, at least I've experienced this where it feels like whatever it is that I'm currently dealing with might be the one that, ruins my life or whatever. Um, it's challenging when you're in the midst of that healing journey, that healing experience, to realize that I can totally overcome this as well, and kind of have faith, even with a track record of positive overcoming experiences in the past. It can be challenging to have faith for this particular experience, this particular challenge. So I love that you are giving yourself permission to go easy when you need to. I've in the beginning of my journey, like if you've heard me talk, you've probably heard me say this over and over. So I apologize, but when I had the hypothyroid and hypoadrenia for the first 22 years of my life, and I was obsessed with trying to get stronger, trying to get healthier, trying to get more energy, and I decided that exercise was the way to do that, and I would last like 4 to 6 weeks, and I would end up weaker and smaller than I was when I started, because I didn't realize I didn't have enough available energy to recover from the workouts I was doing. And so I was trying my best to, show discipline and be consistent and all these things, and working really hard, doing exactly what the textbook said, following the training program to a T, and always ending up weaker and smaller and having to quit because I couldn't carry on. And that was from my teens all the way into my early 20s. And nothing worked until I decided to listen to my body, and I split my muscle groups 14 different ways. So I worked one small movement every day and got through the entire body in 2 weeks once and then started over. And I was like, according to what I read, like you're supposed to work the body 2 or 3 times a week, the whole thing. And, going 2 weeks before working that same movement again, that same muscle again, was supposedly too long based on what I read. But I thought, it's not working the other way for me. So why don't I just experiment with this? And so I listened to my body, and I did that. I worked to fatigue each muscle group. I worked one muscle group a day, got through the entire body in 2 weeks. And after a few cycles of that, I started noticing that I could actually do more repetitions each time I came back to a muscle group. And I was so excited because it was the first time in my life that I was seeing improvement rather than regression. And so ever since then, as I got stronger, then I was able to do more intense workouts, and then I was able to do some crazy intense workouts and really long workouts and all that stuff as I've healed and all that stuff. But there are still times, like last week I was sick, and so I'm still feeling a little bit lightheaded and everything, but I didn't work out for a few days there. And then when I did, I just, listened to my body, did exactly what I felt like I could do. And sometimes there's nothing obvious going wrong. I just won't have the same amount of energy that I had last time I worked that muscle group, and I can't get close to the weight or intensity of the workout that I did previously, the previous week. But at this point, I really trust my body and I choose to listen to it. I know I'm not lazy. I've always pushed myself beyond what I was capable of and beyond what was good for me. And so I choose to listen to my body and adjust my workouts based on the energy level that I'm experiencing. So Danielle, I know you have long haul COVID symptoms and you kind of knocked the wind out of you. But I truly believe that if you're doing all the things, you're eating nutritiously, getting enough water, getting fresh air and sunshine, lifting, which you are doing, and choosing to stay positive and you stay consistent, then you are giving your body everything that it needs to feel supported and to heal and to become stronger. So good job. Keep at it. We'll get into more specifics on Saturday when we talk on the third session. So thanks for sharing, Danielle, and thanks for being on the journey with us. So Stephanie says, hi, I struggle with worsening muscle weakness. I've always had trauma-induced chronic migraines, but the weakness is new. I changed my diet completely when my daughter was born 8 years ago, and I'm always interested in new nutrition info. So Stephanie, thank you for sharing that. Saturday is also when we're going to talk about what are the most effective nutrition adjustments to make if you are empathic, have experienced trauma, have struggles with energy. How do you get the most nutrition and the least toxins in a diet? And that's the biggest thing is maximizing the benefit and minimizing damage. Because every day, all day long, we're exposed to both. So how do we adjust so that you're getting the best support and minimal kind of derailment of your goals and healing and health? So I understand how you would have chronic migraines from trauma. That's really intense. And then now you're experiencing worsening muscle weakness. So it'll be interesting when we go over, there's 12 things specifically that I have found to be the most helpful. Like no matter what, no matter if you're seeing improvement or not, you know that these 12 things are good for you. And so don't stop doing these things. And so we'll be talking about that on Saturday during the webinar. So looking forward to that. And see if there's anything else I was going to say about that. No, I think we'll keep looking forward to Saturday for the rest of that stuff, Stephanie. So thank you for sharing, and see you on here over the next couple of days. And then Hope says, thanks for adding me. I have struggled with my weight since childhood, having years where I lost, then gained it back. My biggest issue is my relationship with food and being a huge emotional eater. This week I've started back at trying to become healthy again because I feel physically awful and hate the example I'm giving my kids. It's been very eye-opening to see how much I'm struggling emotionally when I can't eat whatever I want. So thank you for sharing, Hope. I understand that. I love that you are looking at the example that you're setting for your kids, because our kids see what we do versus more than hear what we say, and so choosing to prioritize yourself in this way is a huge thing. A lot of times moms especially will put themselves at the very last, and it's a really beautiful trait to support your children, but your children are also watching how you treat yourself. And do you want your children to live your example? Or do you want something better for them? So that, I feel like, is a good reference to hold as you are learning how to take care of yourself. So Brianna says, Hope, I relate to emotional eating. Happy to be here with you. It's beautiful, Brianna. Thank you for that. So then, as far as emotions go, a lot of a lot of disordered eating can look different, but all have emotional origins. And when I was still at home, up until I was 22, and I was with an angry father, and I was always trying to get his approval, and trying to be worthy of him. There's a quote that I posted. I can't remember the name of the author, but she says, I spent my life trying to earn the approval of the people who taught me I wasn't worthy in the first place. So a lot of times when you're stuck in that abusive cycle, the game is literally rigged against you. You cannot win. So the people that you're trying to earn the approval of will never, on principle, approve of you because they've got issues within themselves. So that's really challenging. But so when I was in that place in my teens and early 20s, my number one goal was to get his approval. And so if I failed, even though I was going way above and beyond what should ever be required of a human, I couldn't see that. All I could see was the fact that I was not approved and that I was still rejected. So if my dad was mad at me, as a general rule, I was more mad at me. And this was like a huge form of self-abandonment and self-betrayal. And I remember feeling, and I've experienced this since then too, but I remember feeling how it was like my blood was burning as it was going through my body. I could feel the hatred setting my blood on fire, and it was crazy. But one of the things that I would do as a result of that was I would stop eating, and I would just dive into work, and sometimes toward the end, workouts. And I would just refuse to eat because I was so mad at myself. So people have different emotional triggers and different ways of responding. So some people, have the binge and purge, and some people just have the binge, and some people just, stop eating like I did. And yet it's all comes from similar sources. It's all disordered, and it's all because we are not in alignment with who we are. So after I got through basic training in the Marines and I got to meet with that doctor that diagnosed me with hypothyroid hypoadrenia, and she suggested that I eat every 2 hours based on my condition at the time, so that I had consistent energy coming in. And I realized that I didn't realize it was because of anxiety and trauma, but it was because of anxiety and trauma. And it was basically nervous energy. My nervous system was overloaded, overwhelmed, and I was going through my energy stores way faster than I should. So she said, eat every 2 hours, eat something every 2 hours. And so I literally had a timer on my watch that would go off every 2 hours. And it would remind me to eat something. And that habit that I developed, that self-care habit, was really powerful, really instrumental in changing the relationship with my body. Because it was no longer a matter of me punishing myself because I failed to please my dad, but remembering that I cared about my body and my energy levels, and I needed to eat something every 2 hours. So, Hope, you're talking about, I think it's, let's see, this week, yeah. So this week I've started going back to trying to become healthy again. And then the next sentence you say, it's been very eye-opening to see how much I'm struggling emotionally when I can't eat whatever I want. So spend some time. This is just an idea, a suggestion, and hopefully it's helpful. But spend some time thinking about what your desires are for your body, for your nourishment, for your nutritional intake, for feeding your muscles and your blood and your heart and your organs and your brain. Think about all the ways that you can support the amazing, brilliant, powerful body that you've been blessed with. And remember those things every time you eat and every time you choose what you're going to eat. Remember how you are nourishing and nurturing and supporting the brilliant, powerful, wise body that you have. You are you. Your body belongs to you in a way that nothing else does in life. And so supporting and honoring and listening to and showing gratitude for the brilliant body that you have is priority for an effective and enjoyable life. Because this is the body that you get to do life in. So how you support it is huge. So that doesn't necessarily negate the emotional trauma, because that's still there, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But despite whatever emotional trauma and chaos and triggers and emotional flashbacks and things that happen if you've been traumatized, hopefully you can build some anchors that you can hold on to, some handholds as you're climbing out of your old habits and learning to take care of yourself better. Hopefully you can create some anchors to hold on to that will hold you in place through the emotional chaos that comes up. And I totally empathize, I totally relate. Sometimes those emotional flashbacks can be absolutely brutal, and you want to comfort yourself and kind of numb out or whatever the actual response is in your case. But yes, holding on to those anchors of the desires that you have for yourself, the ways that you want to support yourself, it's really, really powerful. And so hopefully this was helpful. I would love any feedback that you have about this. So please comment below or below the YouTube video when I share the unlisted link, the private link. And we will dive deeper into all this the next 3 days. So tomorrow we're talking about trauma and how that affects energy and our personal transformation process as empaths. And then Friday afternoon, we're talking about the process of positive life change and the surprising challenges that come along with that. And then Saturday, we're talking about what are the most effective things that we can do as empaths to increase the support our body feels and decrease the challenge that our body has to deal with. So looking forward to all of that. If you have questions along the way, just post them in the group or message me on Facebook, and I'll make sure that I include that in our talks. All of the webinar will be like this, live in the group, and you're able to post questions along the way. So hopefully that's helpful. Catherine says, very helpful. Feels more loving and supportive than the script that typically plays. Yes, I love that. And I'm one of those people that the typical script has failed. So, yeah, it just did not work. It wasn't a matter of motivation. You know, you hear these motivational speakers, and they're like, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll get it. And so much kind of willpower and determination and all that stuff to push past what your body's feeling. But as empaths and trauma survivors, we've already been doing that just to function normally, and it doesn't work. So yeah, we've already been working harder than most people can imagine just to function as empaths and trauma survivors. So we definitely need a better approach, a different approach. So, and I love that. Just, you know, refuse shame. I just decided I'm going to refuse shame on principle. So, and there's a meme I made about that a while back. I might see if I can find it and post it in the group. But thanks, guys, for being here. Looking forward to talking more tomorrow, and have a great rest of your night.